and you can sit in the seat where Bud Clark fired the police chief with the immortal words, "Read my lips, you're fired." Thank you very much.
Hello everybody. Last but not least, the Portland's famous unarmed cyclist. I actually biked 8,000 miles last year, and as you can see on my shirt, I'm all about safer biking. My name is Michael Trimble. I am an under 40, non-drug using, proud and proud LGBTQ, non-substance user candidate who is tired of the bullshit coming out of Portland City Hall. A little bit about me. I actually gained national notoriety in 2017 when I was wrongfully terminated by Kroger over my adaptive bike. They wanted me to carry my bike up a flight of stairs, which I physically couldn't do, and they fired me over insubordination. Well, obviously that wasn't going to fly, and so I sued them. We ended up settling, but I have been fighting from day one. Living without arms is no joke. And then in 2021, I gained state notoriety when I became the first candidate to file for the gubernatorial primary. And this was a very crowded field like this. There were 19 candidates running for governor. It was the first time in over 40 years you did not have an incumbent or a current governor or former governor on the ballot. And I placed 4th out of 19 candidates with absolutely no money. My progressive agenda is what pushed me that high up. And if I did that well on a statewide competition, I think I can do very well on the city. And so I'm not running for city council, and I ask for your vote because I'm just tired of everything city government is not doing. We have a serious unsheltered housing problem, and keeping in line with Keith Wilson, who's also running for mayor, I want to end unsheltered housing by the end of 2025. We do that by repurposing all of the vacant office space in downtown Portland into single resident occupancy units for the unsheltered. I've spoken to a lot of the homeless, and the reason they choose not to go to shelters that are available when they are available is because they don't feel safe, or they've been victims in the past, they've been raped, they're trans, they have kids, a lot of them have pets, and a lot of people don't know shelters don't allow pets. And how would you feel if you were living in a tent and they said you can have the shelter space, but you have to give up your beloved dog of 11 years? I myself have a cat who is 21 and a half years old, and if I was homeless, I would rather be in a tent than give up my beautiful feline Valentine. So we need to come to the homeless where they are. We need to ask them, how is it we can help you? Now, there is a small percentage of the homeless that are addicted to drugs, and they will never seek help, even no matter what we do. And in that case, we do need to involuntarily commit them to treatment. That is the only way. Doing nothing is not working. I realize that involuntary commitment is a violation of their dignity and autonomy, but at a certain point, you have to do something. Leaving them on the street, giving them blankets so they can continue doing all of these drugs, that is not working. And our streets are so unsafe. People don't come to Portland for exactly that same reason. One of the things I want to do as city councilor, I want to make TriMet fare free, as you can see on my shirt. I'd like to put as much content on a small real estate as possible, and Portland would become the 3rd city in the country with a fare free TriMet. Albuquerque, New Mexico was the last one to do it, and it has been a salvation. Not only does it help those who are on the fringes and low income, but it also facilitates business people who live in the suburbs to come to downtown Portland to work. And the way that we make TriMet more efficient is I propose taking TriMet underground downtown Portland. I don't know if a lot of you know, but the reason the MAX only has 2 cars is because of the size of the streets in downtown Portland. If they were any bigger, they would be jutting out. And so if we can take them underground, we can eliminate the steel bridge bottleneck. We can have more MAX cars transporting more people with more frequent trips. And I want to make the MAX run 24/7, all of the lines. You can't push for a car-free city if somebody can't get around at 3 o'clock in the morning. And I also want to make more of the frequent service buses, like the 20, the 15, run 24/7. So this way we can really tackle the fuel emitting vehicles like cars, and we can make tax incentives for EV vehicles, electric bikes. I've been actually fortunate to be able to work with a lot of companies that pay pretty well, but adaptive bikes, as you may or may not know, are not very cheap. And a lot of people with disabilities like myself are on limited incomes and they can't afford adaptive bikes. And if they were able to get an adaptive bike or adaptive trike or anything, they would be able to be a part of the community. They'd be exercising, they wouldn't be isolating themselves, and it would be a win-win for so many people. I also am the renters advocate. I want to cap rents to 35% of a tenant's income for everybody making below $50,000 a year. Now I realize that this is definitely going to be a confrontation with small business owners and property owners. My plan only goes for multi-unit dwelling places that have multiple units, like my place at Portland Towers, which has 20% vacancy. And I've spoken to the manager, and they said that it is more cost, it's not productive, but they make a profit by not renting out the apartments and just writing it as a loss instead of renting it out. And that is just not right. We need to have a vacancy fee, so any unit that's vacant for more than 45 days, the city will take over and put somebody in there. And then we need to really push for these apartments to have as many people in houses as possible. But we also need to work with homeowners and property owners to make sure that they are made whole while we are transitioning to a people-owned public system like they do have in a lot of cities in Europe. So it's not going to be an overnight change, but there are a lot of units available. They're just vacant right now. And then the other thing I want to do is, in accordance to repurposing the downtown Portland office to single residency unit occupancy, we can also convert them into outpatient mental health facilities. So that's talking to a lot of people who are trying to desperately get the help, but there is not the space for it. I want to work with the CCOs like Care Oregon, Trillium, to be able to expand their footprints into downtown Portland, not just downtown Portland, but all over Portland, so we can actually deliver the help they desperately need. We need to reopen all the sobering centers that have been closed down, because right now, the only option the police have is to drop them off jail, and that is not an option. If people have a place to be able to get sober, and then we can get them on the step to where they can get job skills, life skills, because if we can give them a reason and a purpose to live, I don't think they'll be using the drugs that they're using today. I am glad that Measure 110 is being reversed. It had good intentions, but ultimately the execution was very flawed. But ultimately, though, we need to get people off of the drugs. And if worst case scenario, if they don't comply, we need to commit them. It is that simple. And then we also need to protect renters. There's been millions upon millions of dollars poured into helping the homeless, but not a whole lot as far as helping renters who, myself, we live paycheck to paycheck. We're only $500 away from an emergency that we can't afford, and then we're homeless. And we're not being looked out for renters. And our renters, we work, we pay taxes, we're trying to live the Portland dream, but it's just becoming so much difficult. And so if we're able to lower rents and make them like another annoying bill, like your Comcast bill or your cell phone bill or whatever bill you don't want to pay, but at least it's something you can afford. I was talking to people, especially senior citizens who are retired, and they're paying 70, 80, 90% of their income in rent. I mean, that is not just right. You don't work your entire life and then retire, and this is your new serfdom? Like, hell no. We need to get mad and we need to get things done. And I will be the only city councilor you will never catch sitting on his hands doing nothing, because I will be pushing progress forward. I want to make Portland Street Response operate 24/7. They are a valuable resource that is not being utilized as well. I want to be able to boost the police coffers, the firefighter coffers, and somebody in a question said, well, what programs would you cut to be able to do that? My question is, why do we have to cut anything? Why can't we look for other revenue? And one way we can do that is by taxing the 1%. They are not paying enough as it is. A lot of you may not know, but during World War II, when Franklin Roosevelt was president, the 1% paid over 90% of their income in taxes. And despite that 90% tax threshold, you still had multi-millionaires, which would be multi-trillionaires in today's money standards. So I'm not saying we go back to a 90% tax rate, but we do need to make the well-off pay more. And we need to have accountability in spending. Any of you should be able to go to portland.gov and see how is the money being spent, because I forget if it was Moses or somebody else who said they allocated $2 million and nothing has happened. Like, that should be an eye-opener, and people should have the right and have access to be able to go to the city government and say, how is my money being spent? I also want to make the city council more accessible and transparent for you all. Right now the hours are 9 to 5. Well, a lot of people work during those hours, so if they wanted to testify, they can't because they work. And a lot of times you have to wait 4 hours to be able to testify for 5 minutes. That is not democracy. What we need to do is have expanded hours. I want to hold town halls and city council throughout my duration and come to you to be able to help businesses stay in Portland and attract new business. Believe it or not, Portland does not have a city office of small business, which is crazy of our size. Most cities have that. We do not have that. We need to have that so we can implement policies to help people who want to start small businesses, be able to expand their small businesses, and an office small business will do that. Also, unions, they pay very well money, or very good money rather, but the problem is a lot of the contracts they win are not being enforced by the city. And what I want to do is create an office of union affairs and member outreach so we can reach out to unions and see how can we help you, how can the city help your members to make sure that people are working living wage jobs and that they are able to live where they work. Because like other candidates I mentioned, I've spoken to a lot of people who work in downtown Portland, but they can't afford to live here. They live in Vancouver, Salem, Gresham. I've spoken to a few people who live out for Salem. I mean, that is a commute. And if that's very anti-environmental, I don't know what is. And so we just need to get back to common sense, and we need to get somebody who is not a politician, which I am not. I am a regular citizen like you who is fed up and ready to hit the ground day one. I encourage you to go to my website at iamwithmichael.com, and if you can contribute $5, I'm part of the small donor program election program. They will contribute 9 to 1, so if you contribute $5, they'll match with $45, because I refuse to take money from banks, corporations, lobbyists, oil packs, none of that stuff. I want to answer to voters like you who elect me and not be beholden to these greedy landlords. And I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for East Portland for this amazing event, and thank you for coming out, and do enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you.